Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Terrace RCMP released their latest weekly review, security was beefed up for a Hardeep Singh Nijjar-related court session, and Langley City's mayor is trying to set the record straight over a daycare controversy.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. Some new signage along the Skeena River that was meant to be a celebration of the allied Tsimshian tribes of Lac Walams has fallen victim to repeated and targeted vandalism. CFTK-TV's Jaylene Matthews has more.
In April, 6 new public signs were raised in the Northwest, informing readers about the history of the traditional territory of the 9 allied tribes of Lac Walams. The signage was developed in close communication with tribal representatives, with additional archival research and studying conducted by Lac Walams staff. The signs were stood up at rest stops along the lower Skeena watershed along Highway 16. The project also promotes the Smaliex language in the Skeena corridor, including Smaliex place names, plants, and animals.
Unfortunately, almost immediately after being installed, many of the signs were vandalized, pushed over, or stolen completely.
According to an RCMP report on Friday, April 26th, a Lac Walams band member called the Prince Rupert RCMP to report a mischief to property. It was reported that multiple signs had been vandalized by what appeared to be a chainsaw. The cost to repair and replace was over $5,000. On May 3rd, the signs were repaired and unveiled in a series of ceremonies at each of the rest stops. However, the sign at the terrace entrance was vandalized again after being repaired, as seen in this May 10th photo. If you have any information on who may be responsible for the damage and theft, contact the Prince Rupert RCMP at 250-624-2136. The Lac Walams band leadership wishes to assure their members that the signs showcase important history and will be reinforced and replaced. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
In a report covering the previous week or so, plus the long weekend, the Terrace RCMP spoke to some of the most notable of their 223 calls. One reported incident saw a man get bear sprayed by another man on the 4600 block of Lake Elsa Avenue, but police were able to locate the suspected sprayer at a residence and arrested him for assault with a weapon, where he still remains in custody. Another part of the report detailed someone on a motorcycle getting into an accident by bumping into a guardrail just west of Terrace on Highway 16. Luckily, witnesses to the incident helped the cyclist until emergency health services made it to the scene and got the man to a local hospital where he was said to be in stable condition. There's been a bit of an update released about the rollover incident involving a fully loaded logging truck that was located at the Highway 16/37 roundabout in Thornhill that happened on April 24th. It was determined via an investigation from the BC Commercial Vehicle and Safety Enforcement Agency that a combination of mechanical problems in addition to the truck going too fast were the main factors in the crash. In terms of more in-depth information, the investigation went on to report that the truck rolled due to a problem with its brakes, the cargo securement, as well as its steering while it tried to make its ill-fated trip from Hazelton to Prince Rupert. Luckily, no one got injured due to the rollover, but both the driver and truck will have to pass a safety inspection before they can get back on the road. BC's emergency management minister says tourists are welcome to visit, but they should stay away from Fort Nelson, which has been evacuated due to wildfires. Bowen Moss says it's still too early to say when people evacuated from Fort Nelson will be allowed to go back home. The BC Wildfire Service says precipitation and cooler temperatures are expected in many regions over the coming days, but conditions are still dry. The service is asking British Columbians to do their part to be responsible with any activity that could potentially spark a new wildfire. Coming up next, an infamous Canadian serial killer suffered a serious beatdown recently. Welcome back. Now to disturbing details of a vicious assault in prison on Canada's most notorious serial killer. Robert Picton, a former Port Coquitlam pig farmer, is clinging to life after being attacked on Sunday. And a warning, the details are rather graphic. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
Since Robert Picton was convicted of killing 6 women from Vancouver's downtown east side, he's been held in a special unit in maximum security prison designed to keep him away from other inmates. So news he was attacked there came as a shock to Vancouver Sun reporter Kim Bolan, who broke the story.
You know, it was a bit surprising to hear that someone got to him, but what I heard was that another inmate who had a history of assaulting people had been in segregation for a while and had been released onto this specialized unit, and that he attacked Mr. Picton. And it was a very severe attack from what I heard, something like a broom. The handle was broken off and speared into his head.
Picton was reportedly airlifted to this hospital in Quebec City, where he's now on life support.
To be honest, I was kind of happy and felt that the Creator had answered my prayers. And I think that being said, I don't wish ill on anybody. Like, I'm, not a vengeful person at all. But people need to understand he was a monster and he really destroyed a lot of families.
All the women he's killed and all the damages he's done for all the children and the parents that are left behind and relatives. Is that enough of him having this happen to him? And now he possibly will die. And the more I thought about it, he's going to burn in hell till eternity is over. So it's okay with me now. He can go there and burn.
While families of women Picton is convicted of killing are relieved, if he's severely brain damaged or dies from his injuries, it may shut the door on the now 74-year-old providing any more answers on other suspected murders at his Port Coquitlam pig farm.
What happens to the family members where their loved one's DNA was found on the farm, but there was no conviction, there's no further, justice. So I feel for them.
People always hold out hope that unanswered questions will someday be answered.
Authorities are now trying to answer the question of how a fellow inmate managed to make a weapon and attack Picton on what was supposed to be a secure unit.
When he is as notorious as he is, when obviously there are a lot of people that might want to get to him, you would think that they wouldn't put someone in there with a history of violence against other inmates.
One of the primary concerns I have, obviously, is around the security of these institutions and the men and women who work in these prisons.
While they investigate the gruesome attack, the man suspected of being Canada's most prolific serial killer clings to life in hospital. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
There was extra security as dozens of people showed up at the Surrey courthouse for the appearance of 4 Indian nationals accused of murdering Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. CTV's Michelle Bernero was there as well.
Anyone trying to get into courtroom 107 for the appearance of the accused today had to go through security not just once, but twice. There were 5 sheriffs in the courtroom as 3 of the accused, all in orange prison sweats, appeared in person while 4 suspects appeared by video conference. Amandeep Singh, Kamalpreet Singh, Karan Brar, and Karanpreet Singh are each accused in the first-degree murder of Nijjar, who was gunned down outside the Surrey Temple, where he was president. Nijjar's supporters attending the hearing say it was emotional to see the accused.
I think until this kind of comes to a conclusion, I think people will be shaken. But again, they're very committed in getting justice for Hardeep Singh, ensuring that the Khalistan movement that he was fighting for is pushed forward.
Start for Sikhs especially. And that's why, we're here for him, and we want our justice.
Last September, the Trudeau government said it had credible information linking India to the killing. India has denied any involvement. Those here today say they expect even more people at the next appearance on June 25th, which takes place shortly after the 1-year anniversary of Nijjar's death. Michelle Bernero, CTV News, Surrey.
A new poll is reinforcing the shift in the political landscape happening in BC 5 months before a provincial election. While the NDP does maintain its lead, the BC Conservatives are hot on their heels, narrowing the gap. And this all comes as new details emerge of what a deal between the parties on the right could end up looking like. Here's CTV's Rob Buffum.
Opinion polls continue to show the BC Conservatives cutting into the BC NDP's lead, while BC United's popularity has been shorn away. A trend reflected by our informal poll at this Victoria barbershop.
Concern about fiscal conservancy and how it's not being addressed. And I think that's why right now the Conservative Party is gaining ground.
The latest survey by Research Co. shows 42% of decided voters support the BC NDP, 32% the BC Conservatives. The BC United has plummeted and is tied with the Greens at 12%.
And now dropping severely, and the Conservatives rising to the point where now they are a very competitive party. And this could be a closer election than when most people imagined.
The same polling shows support for Kevin Falcon's BC United has fallen from 33% a year ago, after the party changed its name from the BC Liberals, and Falcon himself is scoring the lowest of all party leaders.
Kevin Falcon hasn't been able to get the troops together.
The dramatic shift in the political landscape has fueled pressure for some sort of Conservatives' BC United alliance to avoid vote splitting on the right. But that may be less of an issue now that the Conservatives are so far ahead, a reality not lost on the NDP. Their leader has sharpened his focus on Rustad's Conservatives.
When they look closer at the Conservative Party, they're going to see that they're going to be cancelling so many of these projects people are counting on.
Today, Conservative leader John Rustad acknowledged talks are still ongoing with BC United, but hinted the most likely scenario is BC United candidates running under a Conservative banner, not a merger or agreement to avoid candidates competing against each other.
So if there's people from the BC United Party that are interested in being part of that, we're interested in having a conversation and seeing what we can do.
The sustained surge by the BC Conservatives has some pundits predicting a tight election in October, instead of the runaway NDP win projected mere months ago.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will get a night with an overcast at a low of 8 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is set to deal with some mainly cloudy conditions while also getting a low of 10 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should deal with a few clouds at a low at -1 degree. On the North Coast, the next week or so should see pretty much all clouds and rain, with their high shifting from 9 to 12 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them is also set to include pretty much all clouds and rain, while the high moves between 14 and 11 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week will have a few flashes of sun, but mostly rain and clouds too, plus a high bouncing from 16 to 12 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, road sweeping, construction work, crack sealing, paving operations, and roadside brushing. Highway 118 has some shoulder maintenance. Highway 37 has some frost heaves. Highway 37A has bridge maintenance and road maintenance work. Some more road maintenance work and shoulder maintenance on the Nishka Highway. And the Telegraph Creek Road still has both muddy sections and frost heaves. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cam. Still to come, Canada's senior care issues has gotten some international scrutiny. Welcome back. Canada's senior care, or lack thereof, was in the international spotlight at the United Nations in New York. A BC doctor spoke to a panel on the concerns facing seniors here and across the country, aiming to bring about systemic change. CTV's Kevin Chirac has more.
We need to make the rights of older people a priority.
Dr. Kathleen Ross is a family doctor in Metro Vancouver and president of the Canadian Medical Association. On Tuesday, she spoke at the United Nations pushing for a UN convention on the rights of seniors. In other words,
a legally binding framework with accountability built in so that we can start to truly drive change.
She brought up the BC government's handling of seniors through the pandemic and the 2021 heat dome, where more than 600 people died.
70% of the people who died in 1 week were over the age of 70.
She calls the lack of staff support and resources unacceptable.
I know adults who are actually considering pursuing medical assistance in dying to avoid becoming that burden, to avoid being subjected to this type of care.
There's a real gap in the supply of care and the demand.
Terry Lake is the head of the BC Care Providers Association.
We see so many people that are caring for their loved ones and can't find the necessary help with that care, whether it be in long-term care or home health provided by health authorities.
Earlier this year, the feds offered a funding boost, with BC receiving more than $700 million over the next 5 years to address senior issues, including long-term care, dementia care, and the staffing shortage.
So a lot of good things going on, but we're playing catch up.
And with a rapidly aging population, Ross says the clock is ticking.
So it really is time that we have a hard conversation about what's limiting progress against the unconscious and sometimes, not so unconscious bias that we have against older persons.
After 14 years of discussions, the UN has yet to move forward on a convention on the rights of seniors. Kevin Chirac, CTV News.
The mayor of Langley City wants to set the record straight after a controversy over daycares. Council has voted to ban new child care centers from opening in a portion of the city's downtown core, with the move being meant to preserve its historic neighborhood. But as CTV's Abigail Turner explains, not everyone agrees.
It's a quaint, walkable neighborhood in Langley, filled with restaurants, shops, and daycares.
As you end up with these, windowed off areas, so it really creates an uninviting space for shopping.
A drawback to having multiple child care centers in these 2 blocks of Langley, according to the mayor, and a reason why he voted to stop any more from opening in this area.
We want to ensure is a retail mix, 9.5% of our downtown core. The rest of our downtown core, you can have childcare wherever.
It's a motion that has raised eyebrows at a time when finding a childcare space is so dire in BC.
Called the daycare that my daughter goes to right now, and I asked how long the wait list was, and they said hundreds.
It's a reason why Councillor Mike Solium voted against it.
There is a fear that this historic downtown of ours would change in an undesirable way if you want to attract tourists to this place. If you're looking to serving the needs of the people in the city, I think those two are at odds with each other.
There are already 5 child care centers operating here in the downtown area, but according to the mayor, those businesses wouldn't be affected.
We're not saying no more child care in downtown.
There are currently 35 child care centers in the city of Langley. Advocates point out the neighborhood is just as important as the care.
Childcare, it isn't childcare just anywhere that we can stuff it and make it work. We don't want it in strip malls and next to liquor stores. We want to think about where young children are spending their days.
The province has previously given the city a $4 million grant for childcare. A public hearing will be held next month to decide on the final outcome. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Langley.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 14/10 of a cent. The price of gold is down $33. Oil is down $1.09. Natural gas is up 17 cents. Aluminum is up $95. In Toronto, the TSX is down 121.40 points. The Venture Index is down 9.20. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 201.95, and Nasdaq is down 31.09. Still ahead, the Canucks playoff run has reached its end. Welcome back. The Vancouver Canucks' quest for the Stanley Cup this season is over, but the team defied all the preseason odds by even making the playoffs, where they delivered some truly memorable moments for fans. CTV's Ben Milger has more on the city's resurgent support for the Canucks and the impact that passion has made on the players.
When the battle's over, one team going home, one team moving on.
The Vancouver Canucks' third period comeback attempt came up 1 goal short in Game 7 against Edmonton. But passion returned to Rogers Arena for this playoff run, and the players felt it.
I'll tell you what, it hit me emotionally at the end of the game when they're cheering for us.
and clapping for us when you walk down the President's Club. And it's when you see that, you're in a good place at a good market, and it's just the beginning of hopefully really good things here in the future.
The plucky Canucks punched above their weight all season and delivered some truly magical postseason moments for the home crowd.
They played good. We didn't expect them to get this far. It's disappointing, but they came back at the end and they had a chance.
Not many picked the Canucks to even make the playoffs, but they won their division, handily dispatched the Nashville Predators, and pushed a good Oilers team to the brink of elimination.
And I told them that before the game. It's because they put respect back in that jersey and the city. Fans got something to be proud about. So, and it's all because of the players.
Pressed into service, third-string rookie netminder Artur Shilovs etched his name into Canucks playoff lore and gave his team a chance to win every night.
Already played his ass off for us. I mean, what a playoff for that kid. What about his growth? So there's a lot of positives out of that.
With the sting of the painful loss still setting in, the players had a hard time looking on the bright side.
I'm sure in the coming days we'll look at it, but yeah, I mean, hard to know what to say right now.
They tried their best, and that's all that matters.
Better luck next year. We know what it takes now to win some series, so these guys are going to do it next year for us. Go
Canucks, go!
For the first time in a long time, the city united behind the team, and there's a real sense of optimism about what the future holds. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.